What if the most harmful wounds you carry were never caused by what someone did to you, but by what they made you believe about yourself? Maybe you grew up thinking you had to earn love. Maybe you learned to stay quiet to keep the peace. Maybe you still feel responsible for other people's emotions. These patterns don't come from nowhere. They come from emotional abuse, subtle, confusing, invisible. The kind that doesn't scream but quietly shapes your entire identity. In this two-part series, we're going to uncover these hidden forms of emotional harm, where they come from, and how they affect you. Don't forget, awareness is the first step towards healing. In part 1, we will explain what emotional abuse is, how it forms, how it hides in everyday interactions, and how it shapes a child's sense of worth and safety. We will talk about verbal abuse, neglect, possessive and controlling parents, dominant parents, and also overly critical parents. And then in part 2, we will explore competitive parents and psychological marriage. By the end of these videos, you will have the language, insight, and clarity to finally make sense of your experiences and to start noticing where your boundaries and needs truly are. So let's begin. Emotional abuse is a pattern of ongoing verbal and nonverbal behaviors that make a person feel worthless, unloved, or unwanted. It can include belittling, humiliation, constant yelling, name-calling, using a child as a scapegoat or as a daddy's little princess, withdrawing love as punishment or manipulation. Emotional abuse can be verbal, such as name-calling and mocking. Children take these messages as absolute truth and internalize their parents' voices. It can also appear as physical or emotional neglect. Emotional neglect or rejection is one of the most destructive forms of emotional abuse. These parents don't respond to the child, they leave them alone, offer no praise or affection, and show little interest in their emotional world. Children in such environments begin believing that they are the reason they aren't receiving attention, that something is wrong with them, and that others cannot truly love them. Even as adults, they struggle to trust love. They live with chronic fear and tension. Some dysfunctional parenting styles are more subtle, such as possessive or over-controlling parents, because some may confuse them for just being really caring or involved. A possessive parent controls and dominates the child's world. This can start very, very early. For example, a mother who suffocates the child with affection is overly protective and constantly anxious. When the child reaches the stage where independency naturally emerges, the parent feels threatened. They fear that something terrible will happen, so they discourage independence and exploration. And the child attempts at autonomy, trigger anxiety in the parent, who then uses guilt or fear to pull the child back. Anyone who encourages the child's independence becomes a threat, sometimes even causing jealousy. Such a mother may criticize every friend the child has, fearing she will be replaced. The older the child becomes, the stronger the parent's need for control. Adolescence is often the worst phase, with the parent insisting that no one is good enough for the child. Possessiveness is especially common in parents who themselves experience trauma. For example, a father who had many girlfriends in his youth may assume all boys only want physical intimacy from his daughter, which can lead to obsessive control. Another category of toxic parenting is dominant parenting, controlling every aspect of the child's life, how they speak, eat, dress, who they spend time with, and so on. These parents insist they just want the best for their children, but in reality, they need control to feel powerful and important. Many dominant parents were heavily controlled as children and suppressed a lot of anger. Now, they're passing that anger down through dominance and strict control. Where the opposite happens, because they were over controlled, they now give the child complete freedom, which is simply the other extreme. These emotional reactions actually belong to the parent's own past, towards their parents or grandparents, not towards the child. The danger arises when parents believe the child is the problem rather than the original source of their pain. The same dynamic appears in adult relationships. We sometimes say really hurtful things to the partners, but they actually belong somewhere else. Dominant parents also believe they have the right to punish children for any resistance. If the child obeys immediately, the parent feels safe. If the child pushes back, they feel entitled to punish. If this sounds familiar, ask yourself, what would happen if I wasn't in control? If I let go just a little bit? These questions then touch the deeper fears underneath. Another form of abuse comes from overly critical or perfectionistic parents. Constant complaining and criticism. Such a parent does not emotionally feel the child. Any problem or tension is blamed on the child. I am nervous because you won't stop talking. Or, if you tried harder, I wouldn't have to yell so much. The child stops thinking for themselves and instead constantly scans the environment to avoid criticism. This deeply affects the child's cognitive, social, and emotional development. The truth is, no matter what the child does, these parents will still be anxious and angry. The problem lies in the parent's inner restlessness. Often the parent targets one specific child as the scapegoat. Perhaps that child reminds them of a parent they disliked or even of themselves. The criticism becomes deeply internalized, and its impact can be as damaging as physical violence. The child also internalizes fear and starts worrying, if I'm this terrible, who could ever love me? What can a child do with this fear? A child cannot reject their parents. A child cannot accept the idea that their own parents are unloving or cruel. The need for attachment and belonging is wired too deeply. So the child decides, it must be me. There is something wrong with me. This belief gives them a tiny sense of control. If I become good enough, maybe things will change. I hope this video gave you some insight and clarity, and most importantly, compassion towards yourself or anyone else who might have been a victim of similar dynamics. Don't forget, healing is possible. Sometimes what feels like a huge loss or pain can turn into a source of strength. These experiences can shape you into a deeper, wiser person, helping you grow in ways you might never have imagined. In the next video, I will talk about competitive parents and psychological marriage between a parent and a child. So don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out. Thank you for exploring with me.